Alright, and we're back. This is the Valley the Jaguar. I screwed up and fell and I was like, nope, we're resetting that. That's really bad. So, this is story of a girl, cried a river, drowned the whole world. While she looks so sad in photographs, I absolutely love her when she smiles. This is one of the reasons I don't like Serious Sam Second Encounter as much. Look, it's not bad, it's not deal-breaking, it's only the second level, you know, but in my opinion, this is not a great Serious Sam level. It's just, I understand, you know, and I'm gonna say it, platforming in FPS games, it's totally fine. I have nothing against it. But the problem with this game is, I'll get into it in a minute. So, see how I'm jumping up? Actually, I probably shouldn't do that here. I'll explain it when I get up into another room that's not next to a giant cliff that can kill me. Nope. Yep, I called it too. I was like, yep, I'm not going to make that. So, in this game, you have to hold down, like, forward. I am very, very, very used to Quake, Team Fortress 2, Half-Life, Counter-Strike, Left 4 Dead. You name it, I'm very, very used to those control schemes where if you just move forward, like, you have, like, acceleration still. Even, like, Postal 2, which is a piece of shit, that game at least has that too. Like, if you let go, you just stop your momentum and you just plummet like a fucking rock. And I absolutely hate that about the platforming in this game. It's very infrequent, but when it shows up hard and it's not fun. So, oh god, please. There we go. So I'll show you what I mean. Also, this is a serious bomb. It's basically a screen nuke. So anyways, like when I'm jumping like this, see how I'm like that? I'm just moving forward manually. I expect to go like this. Like, kind of like that, you know? But if I do this, I just stop. And it's really hard to explain until you've played a game like this, but when you've played, like, Source Engine games for years and you go to this, it's very, very weird. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but this game does not platform well. That's all I can say. You feel very... Oh god, I'm not going to make it. I need to stop. There we go. If you play anything like Quake, which I think, personally, the original Quake, the most fucking flawless movement controls in an FPS, probably ever. I'd say the only game that comes close to it might be Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, original Doom, Quake, I'd say as far as Half-Life 1. I know Half-Life 1 has some weird shit to it, but, like, in this game, I cannot rocket jump like I can in other games. Like, I know they're different engines, but for the most part, you'd think there'd be some overlap. I don't get that with Serious Sam. Like, I just don't. I never feel like I have that kind of control. I really should have got that health vial. God damn it. Ooh, Jesus. You see what I mean? You just drop, and then you lose momentum. It's so fucking scary. Oh, why is it saving here? That is a... Oh, that's just shitty, dude. Anyways, I haven't even mentioned this yet, but you do need to zoom in with the rifle to do max damage. Kind of treat it like how the rifle in Team Fortress 2 works for Sniper. But, you know, it's kind of like that. Yeah, that's the, like... I think that's the only game I've ever played where that's kind of a thing. I believe in Serious Sam 3, the rifle doesn't need to have to be scoped in to do max damage. But Serious Sam 4, I know for a fact, it doesn't need it. If you scope in... Oh my god. You see what I mean? Look at that shit. I have no control when I'm in the air. I feel like I'm just a fucking brick, and it's... I did this on every single playthrough. It's not because I'm bad. It's because you just have such awkward fucking movement. Ugh. Anyways, this is a secret. You can go up here. It's gonna spawn some Harpies and a bull when I go down here. So bulls do take 1 sniper round to kill. They take 2 rockets, 1 sniper round, 2 grenades, and 2 double barrel shots to kill.
Hey guys, let's play hot potato.
I also would love to point out right now, Serious Sam as Second Encounter, it really just gives you your arsenal a hell of a lot faster than the first game. And that I can... How the hell did you get in here, you bastard? Anyways. Oh shit, that was a dumb move. It does really give you your arsenal way quicker, and it makes things a lot more fun. So...
Is it just me? Or did everything around here get a lot better looking?
Where's Amir? Yeah, so the game really does not hold back. It's already just throwing biomechs at you, clear swarms, mini biomechs, like I'm gonna call them kookaburras, and I know that's not what they're called every time. But, yeah, the game really expects you to know how to play Serious Sam already. So, like I said, don't go into this game expecting, you know, oh, this is a great place to start, the second game in the series, technically. This will be fine. And then immediately get overwhelmed and go, well, fuck this. I really do think, if I had to say the best encounters in the entire series, like enemy variety and stuff, I would honestly say it comes from this game here. Some of the encounters are just very, very memorable. All the medieval levels are very, very good, with some exceptions. There's some parts in those that are just awful. Like, shit like this, though, I think is a little too much, like, to be an early game kind of thing, right? I just feel like this area is very dangerous, and it's very unfriendly. Oh, Jesus. No, I want the flamethrower. There we go. So, you'd be amazed how damn good this flamethrower is. You can just kind of rope-a-dope enemies into it, and it just does a shit ton of damage. Oh god, just please leave me alone. I'm gonna have one just dunk right on top of me, and I'm gonna get so mad. Alright, so like I said, you could use a screen nuke here, but I don't advise it. Those are pretty rare, and I don't really use them very often unless it's a situation I know I'm gonna get fucking killed in. Because even though, yeah, this is the fucking 21st century, okay? You should be allowed to quick save the game if you don't want to replay an area that's 20 minutes long, right? So, like, I don't like to get killed in this game at all, but it's gonna happen, I guarantee it. There's just some shit that's just really unbalanced. I don't know, how did he not die? I swear to God, that was a direct hit, wasn't it? Oh well, not gonna cry about it too much. Maybe later, but not right now. Yeah, there's just a lot of shit in this game that's... It doesn't feel balanced. There's a hallway in the Mesopotamia, like, Middle Eastern section, whatever you want to call it, where, I swear to God, you take damage, like, because it's... I mean, yeah, you get hit a lot in a game, but in terms of, like, design, I don't think it's balanced. You have to, like... I think you have to use laser gun, or... I don't know. You gotta use something, basically. You gotta use, like, high DPS, and it's very, very, very tight. It doesn't matter how much HP you start with, either. Like, if you go in there without, like... Actually, I'd say it's a beginner's trap, because you can get soft-locked into it on accident, and it's really unforgiving. But when we get there, right? There's areas like that. I really don't like the, like, sections in the castle area. I think that's the weakest in the entire game. It's very challenging, yes, but it's just not fun. I said this in the first encounter playthrough as well. I do not like how... When Serious Sam tries to go into an indoor setting, it just kind of fucks up, I feel, and it's not very balanced. Like, it's just not as solid of a shooter. Serious Sam works in big open areas with lots of dudes, and I don't know. For me, it's just a game that really excels when it comes to indoor areas, or sorry, outdoor areas. Things like Quake do indoor areas way better, and I love, like, the design. I love the ambition, don't get me wrong, but it's just not very solid in my opinion. And I really don't think this is a good level to start off the game with. Like, this should have been later in the game, I feel. It's not terrible, but it's still almost a bit too much. I can't complain too much. It's not the worst thing, but... Like, I'd say Serious Sam 3, despite the slow start, at least introduces you... Well, I guess it's a little too slow. I still think the golden standard is, like, the first encounter. It's just so... It knows what it's doing, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very solid, well-designed shooter. The second encounter just feels like an afterthought. And that's not to say it's bad. I will always say this is a great... You know, everyone kind of has their own opinions on Serious Sam. I'm a fan, I guess. I wouldn't say it's my favorite series, but You know, I was very excited for Serious Sam 4. It was one of the few games I was actually looking forward to this past few years. I mean, yeah, there was a hell of a lot of delays, but I think it was really good. Okay, what am I saying? It's not great, but it's definitely... it's good. It was palatable. It wasn't mediocre. It wasn't, you know, like, pathetic. It wasn't whatever. It was very, very unoptimized, and it still is. But let's be honest.
Maybe I should follow that line.
Do you really play Serious Sam for the story, and you're gonna really call the whole game like the story of Serious Sam? Are you deeply invested in that?
Sorry, did I wake you?
I love this part. Anyways, like, if you're really gonna go there and be like, oh, its story sucks and the people that like it are stupid, like, I guess. I don't know. Like, I think the story in Serious Sam 4 is fucking awful, but that really isn't enough to make me say it's a bad game. It's solid as hell with the shooting. Like, when it lets you do some pretty crazy shit, it lets you do it. And I think the combat's a bit more streamlined, and I don't mean that because you reload weapons. I mean that because it really does feel like they took the Doom 4 to 5 approach with the design. Like, there is optimal solutions. Like, obviously in Serious Sam, like, 1, the coach gun is really good for clear, the rocket launcher for, like, the wearables, then the minigun for close range, the laser gun for, like, last resort damage, and then you have, like, you know, there's everything has a place. Serious Sam 4, I really feel like you can rely on certain weapon combos a lot more. Like, obviously good old-fashioned, you know, sniper rifle shotgun, you cannot go wrong. Like, it's so damn effective, it's not even funny. Okay, it is kind of funny, but still, you get what I mean, right? Like, there's so many obvious choices of weapons you could use, and Serious Sam 4 kind of lets you do that, but it also doesn't do that at the same time. Like, the laser gun doesn't come up until way later in the game. If you're going for, like, the normal, no, like, secrets every single level, I actually found... Jesus, I actually found a lot of the secrets without actually really trying my first time. The parkour secrets are hot shit, I'm just gonna say it. Like, those can get fucked. It's because the game still has that weird dropped momentum shit that I think just really tears it apart. And, I haven't even mentioned, these guys are assholes. I really do not like those enemies. Their fireballs can be shot down, but as far as I'm concerned, I think you have to use an explosive, but the most part I just use the cannon gun when I get it. So, yeah, but Serious Sam 4, like the laser gun, the death ray, you get the death ray, I think, right at the end of the game. I think you get it as like a side mission weapon attachment, I think. I can't remember. But, you know what I mean? Like, why would you ever use the, you know, laser gun when you can just use the death ray, right? Like, in that game, why would you ever just fire rockets like this when you can just lock onto an enemy and just fire and forget? I think I maybe used the rocket launcher without that attachment a grand total of like 2 times. So that's my gripe. Like, it doesn't really... I mean, the same thing goes for like Doom Eternal, I'm not gonna lie. As well as Doom 4, but you know what I mean? There's a certain progression in that game that just doesn't feel like...
I smell some serious fire.
I cannot remember how to get the secret, by the way, and I don't really care. So, in that game, the shotgun is, like, obviously the most powerful weapon for most situations, right? But there's different swaps in, like, that, right? I mean, quick swapping is kind of cheesy, but it's also implemented in the game, like, as an actual mechanic. In Serious Sam 4, there's a lot of shit that just felt really... I don't know how to explain it other than rushed. Like, I don't think it's bad, but, like, there's situations in that game where you have all these like tools, and only every now and then do they actually really come into play. Like in this game, every single weapon has a different purpose at every single distance, but when you can headshot enemies, and I'm not saying locational damage is bad, but like, you can just walk up to a scrapjack, or even a canoe with the dual coach guns and just shoot them in the face with one pull, and you pretty much have just like negated all the difficulty like that those enemies face, right? In Serious Sam 3, a canoe was serious shit. You had to actually focus it down. You had to like pepper it down with the maybe rocket launcher and then the cannon if you were unfortunate enough before that point. Like, I guess an example as well, the scrapjacks, right? Scrapjacks were the best weapon for them was the Devastator and the I'm trying to remember the best. I'd say scrapjacks really benefit when you have the Devastator, but for the most part, like, you pretty much focus them down with rockets, right? But in that game, they have locational damage, and like I said, locational damage isn't bad. It just means that you can't, like, you don't have to rely on certain weapons as much, which is good, because then the player becomes over-reliant on certain things. But it also makes it where the player becomes over-reliant on certain things. So, in this game, I think every weapon has a purpose. Like, the knife is one of the most damaging weapons if you actually can melee properly. And then there's situations like, you know, the Colts are great against Beheaded. They're also pretty okay against the Zerg, I think is what they're called. The Zorg. And, but then the double barrel is great for clears. This is also good for Zorgs. This is good for most things at a distance. This is good for closing ground enemies like clear. You see, that's what I mean. Like, there's so many, like, solutions to problems that you always have in Serious Sam. Like, oh shit, a clear horde, I can thin them out with the minigun, I can thin them out with the flamethrower. You know, distance, I can chip away at, like, wearables. If they get too close, I can use this, or maybe even the sniper. You see what I mean? Like, you have so many options. Like, in this situation coming up here, I could easily switch to one of the two, right? I could say, okay, I could use rockets, I could use this. It just depends on the location, right? So, in Serious Sam 4, I just pull out the dual coach gun and just not let go of the trigger until I was out of ammo. And if you had Looter Shooter, which that perk was so useful, it was actually the first perk I picked, and also it's still the most important perk in my opinion, because it has bias, and if you're using something, the game spawns that kind of ammo. So if you want to spawn a lot more Devastator shells, switch to the Devastator with Looter Shooter, use the Devastator to get more shells, and then use something else for a while, and then you have, like, you just generate more ammo. That's not bad, by the way, I'm just saying, that's my point, is you had so many options in that game to, like, if this was Serious Sam 1, I'd be doing this, right? Like, where's another clear? So, like, I'd be using the double barrel for this because it's the most effective method for the clear. So, there comes, like, a point in Serious Sam 4 where every weapon... Like, I think one of the worst examples in that game, actually, that I think is bad design, is the crazy hammer dudes that you have to shoot from behind, like the demons in Doom. Like, why? Like, first of all, that's annoying as hell. They have fucking iframes from every direction except explosives, but you can just use the Devastator on them, right? In the beginning of the game, they make them out to be like this threat, but you never encounter them hardly ever, and by the time you encounter them again, you already have all the tools to deal with them. So like Harpies right here, right? Harpies are easily taken care of by just getting next to them and meleeing them, right? So in Serious Sam 4, I just shoot them in the head and then they die. Witch Brides in Serious Sam 3, you could just, you know, you could do certain things to negate them, but the most part, you dealt with them by, like, shooting them 4 times with the Devastator, right? In Serious Sam 4, equip sniper rifle, aim at head, enemies done. Obviously, they're not nearly as overpowered as they are in that game, but my point is that game feels like it streamlines the solutions to most of your problems by just boiling down to use whatever gun you like the most and have the most ammo for. Which is great, but I don't think that really encapsulates Serious Sam's philosophy of prioritizing enemies based on what weapon you're using and stuff. And these assholes are fucking awful. They are seriously the worst enemies. See what I mean? That their projectile, you cannot shoot it down. You have to shoot it down with, I think, a rocket. I know the cannon works for sure, so don't quote me on this, but... Oh, you fucking green asshole. Where are you at? Oh, no, I see you now. You fucking... I don't know. Like, a good example as well. Like, reptiloids in that game, like, I just see them and I go, oh, look, a headshot, and then they drop dead. That's the biggest problem I have. Like, Canooms, like, no joke, Canooms are so... They were, like, serious business when they start showing up in Serious Sam 3, right? You're like, what the fuck is that? The first time you see one, it's a boss fight. It's even the boss fight of one of the DLCs, right? Like, it's super imposing and threatening. And then they just get relegated to, like, bullet sponge enemy. And I mean, they're still technically like a... I guess they're that game's version of the Highlander enemy, I guess, is the best way to put it. But they don't really do a whole lot. Like, they're not as threatening. I mean, they're not threatening at all. What am I saying? You know what I'm trying to say, I hope, right? Maybe you don't. I don't know. But my point is, like, Serious Sam 4... It's so freeform that it almost feels overpowered, right? Like, you're almost overpowered in that game. I'd say the only times I really die in that game are because of something stupid. Like, there's obviously difficult sections. I wouldn't say it's easy. I'd still say it's not as hard as Serious Sam 3, but it's still pretty challenging. I'd say the hardest is the second encounter. And if that's just if we're talking, like, normal, like, standard difficulty. If we're talking, like, the hardest game, I'd say probably Serious Sam 3, because there's a lot of shit in that game that can be very unforgiving. Like, on serious, by the way, because it's a different game altogether. Like, I'd say Serious Sam 3 is a little bit harder, but you also have a lot more tools. I'd say maybe, actually, no, I take that all back. The hardest game in the series on Serious is probably the first game. That's only because you're so under-equipped. You don't have as many tools and, like... There's not as much get out of jail free cards in that game. I'd say probably the easiest, if I had to guess, might be Serious Sam 3. Well, no, 4 might be the easiest. I'm not saying that is a bad thing either. It's just, yeah, it's not as, like, unforgiving as the past games are. Like, you see what I mean? Like, I know what weapons I should be using at what distance. In that game, I'd just be bolting up into shit and just using the coach gun on everything. And the coach gun's way faster. This animation I'm doing right now is sluggish compared to that. It's such a damn satisfying game. It really is. And I like it. I don't think it's terrible, and I look forward to playing it, but... I mean, I don't think it's as good as it was hyped up to be, obviously. There's a lot of shit that got left on the cutting room floor. Like... You can just kind of feel it in the game, and I get it. Like, COVID really made it difficult for everybody. But, oh man. Serious Sam 4, oh, shit like that, right there, like, that's just not cool. I knew that was gonna happen, but, like, it still happens because, you know, reasons. Like, this is hard, let's just throw kamikaze units. I know, you know, G-Man Lives, which, God, I hope you'd watch if you watch anything FPS related, right? He complains about there being too many kamikaze units in this game. I guess, but I don't know. I'm taking some coffee here. I am drinking iced black coffee today, so be happy. I'm happy. I love just black coffee, by the way. It's one of my favorite things. And if you're wondering why my voice sounds kind of off, it's because I threw my voice out doing a really... Dave Mustaine as Roz from Monsters, Inc., but speaking like Dave Mustaine song lyrics at Mike Wazowski impression. Yeah, let that sink in.